Dumelang, welcome to Face the Nation. I'm Clement Manyatela. It's wonderful to have you with us here on SABC News. On the show tonight, the EFF is now 11 years old. It's preparing to go to its elective conference in December, but the organization has experienced some upsets. Its electoral performance was not the best this year. The party's support declined to less than 10%, so it's no longer the third biggest party. The party has also lost its deputy president in Floyd Shivambu, who has since joined the MK. So how is the founder and leader of the EFF steering the ship? What does the future of this organization look like? And how does the party plan on playing an effective role? The leader of the EFF, Julius Malema, faces the nation tonight. And because we want to maximize on the time we have with him and to also give you the opportunity to ask questions, there won't be a comment today. So we'll get straight to the conversation. But if you have some questions for him, you can send us a WhatsApp voice note on 078-459-1897. Remember to tell us your name and surname and where you are sending the voice note from. And please keep them at 30 seconds. Alternatively, you can send us an X on @FaceTheNation SABC. Julius Malema, leader of the EFF, thank you so much for making time for us. Thank you for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
I want to start off with something that a lot of people, and I'll say including myself, have just been wondering about. How have you been since Floyd Shivambu left? Because I think it's one thing to lose a comrade, but it's another to actually lose someone you had considered a brother. And I wonder if that kind of relationship still exists. But I'll start there. How are you doing?
Well, I'm doing very well. The leadership of the EFF remains intact. Although his departure was painful, but I got some sense of relief. I don't know why. It was as if I've put down some heavy load. So it's not always that bad things will always produce bad results. Perhaps at times they do produce very good results. So we're fine. We're rocking.
You're rocking. Is that as the EFF? What about you and him? Is there an opportunity?
No. I don't have anything to do with him.
No friendship anymore?
No. I don't. What brought us together was a common purpose. We met in the trenches. We didn't meet in a club. We didn't meet at church. We didn't fall into love with each other at the university in the same class. What brought us together was sharing the common agenda for the revolution. And once we start seeing things together, differently, what brought together no longer exists, and there's no need for me to be having any kind of relationship.
Yeah. One of the things that I think a lot of people saw this when you addressed the press briefing with him when he was announcing that he's leaving. And a lot of people said, oh, you can just see how sad Julius is. We've never really seen him like that. And you guys were so collegial in the way you addressed this matter. You were very professional. You were very mature in how you handled it. And then a few days later, you addressed the ground forces, and I felt you were going hard on him, where you said you have been betrayed. What happened between that moment and the time when you addressed the ground forces? Because it seems like something happened, because then the messaging changed.
No. The messaging remained the same. There's a different posture you take when you're in a press conference, like when I'm talking to you now. And when I go to speak in a rally or in a political talk cannot be like some boring history lecture in a lecture room. My responsibility, amongst other things, is to agitate and to instill confidence on the ground forces and say to them, we're still rocking the boat, we're in charge, let's move forward. So there should be a difference between the press conference and the ground forces event. But there's nothing that really is different from what we said. I said to you then, and I might have said it in an emphatic manner at the ground forces rally. I said to you at the press conference that I wouldn't have expected that from a brother. And once I say that, a word for that is betrayal. So if whether I put it in that way or in this way, it's the same. But it's water under the bridge now. Nothing of us depend on his existence. No. We are doing much better now without him.
Yeah. One of the things you said at the press briefing was that this is not allowed even in the EFF constitution, but if he decides that he wants to come back to the EFF, you are going to make an exception for him. Is that offer still on the table? That was a demonstration of me not having anything against him as a person. But the EFF has got a constitution. It has got its own membership. It has heard what I said, and it will decide at that moment if that moment presents itself. But I was simply saying, I've got nothing against this guy. I've not done anything to this guy. And even if he calls on me tomorrow, I'll show up, because I will not have some hangovers that, but this guy, when he left, this is what happened. No. And that's what I was saying. But we are all governed by the constitution of the EFF, which says if you leave the EFF, you are not allowed to come back. And the leadership of the EFF at a CCT meeting, one after another, they said to me, hey, my guy, we heard you, but not here. So they said no, not here. You can forgive each other there, but not here. The constitution of this organization applies. And I ought to respect that, because I've expressed my views, and the leadership said, hell no. Are you not concerned about how that comes across? Because from what you're saying, this is a decision that you took unilaterally, right, about making an exception even though the constitution that doesn't allow, without speaking to the leadership. Do you not think you should have at least discussed it with the leadership and said, hey guys, this guy wants to leave, but because he is, as you've said before, the brainchild of this organization, what do you guys think of this? Because you are a leadership collective. I would imagine Julius Malema himself can't just make exceptions about the constitution of the EFF. Well, a person leaves a day or a night before. We meet, work out the strategy on how we're going to navigate this with him. And the following day, we handle it, professionally in a very good manner, the way you are saying. For the first time, I hear you speaking so well about EFF that you did something professional and in an acceptable manner. So in between that, there is no time for consultation of the highest decision-making body in between the conferences. I'm its president. I should make pronouncement in between, because leadership must be provided. But when that leadership meets, it has to rectify what I said. It's the same as the CCT, the Central Command Team. It will take a decision and then goes to a National People's Assembly in December. And then we arrive there, they say, no, that decision was wrong. This is what the leadership should do going forward, or should have done, and therefore we're not accepting this resolution. So we've got our bosses, as it were, but it doesn't mean that I'm confronted with a challenge now, and I have to protect this organization, which I did to the best of my ability. And that's why it's still standing today. Yeah. I have to say, as we wrap up on Floyd, one of the things that particularly surprised me about your posture when you're addressing the ground forces is when you told them to go and check who owns Channel 405 and what relations they've had with people like Floyd Shivambu, or people that have left. And I just thought, that is so below the belt. And I know you've said in the past that when we are in politics, we mustn't be personal. So don't involve my family, don't involve my personal relationships, attack me as a politician. And I just felt, and I could be wrong, I'm interested to hear your view here, if you think you addressed and dealt with that matter correctly, because you basically exposed him about his past relations with someone who owns Channel 405. Do you think that was the right way to deal with it, especially after you guys agreed that they're not going to be personal attacks? Well, I'm happy you know who owns 405, I don't know. I'm happy you know personal relations of people, I don't know. Do not involve me in the bedrooms that have nothing to do with me. I've never said that. And let me reassure, I'm not a coward. If I wanted to say something, I will say it. So I didn't say that. So I'm not responsible for your interpretation. I'm responsible for what I say. And I did not say that. I don't know who owns 405. Go and check the ownership of the 405. Check its posture against the EFF. The same as
403. It has been under scrutiny now as to who owns it and why is it a propaganda machinery for the GNU. Now we're going to be told, no, you are below belt because there is a person who owns a 403 and he had a relationship with Steinhazen in the municipality of eThekwini. I don't know that. But I'm just saying you check its ownership, then you check what is the agenda driven by this station. And that will tell you why the poster they've taken. I mean, we are not shocked by the SABC. I mean, SABC has been very hard on us and pro the other formations, as long as it's not EFF, especially with the question that you are asking me now about this guy who have left the EFF. If you check the relationship of some of the board members of the SABC and look at the SABC's poster, then you will understand why the SABC is taking the poster is taking. So you ought to know every existing material evidence that will give you direction of where we're going. So, and we've always spoken, even in his presence, about the ownership of 405. And we've always doubted that that which they say owns 405 is actually not true. So I don't know. At least today we are getting some answer from you about ownership.
So I just wanted to give you the opportunity to clarify that, because that's at least in my interpretation, which is why I wanted you to at least explain it. Because when you said go check who owns 405 and the relations they've had with the people who have passed, but I'll take your explanation. Do you still expect people to leave and follow Floyd? Because you said that was you said you must expect that fighters, that some people are going to leave and follow him. Do you still think there's some...
Yeah, they're there and we're looking at them and they think that we don't know. You know, there comes a season in politics where these things happen. And then you must not be overwhelmed by a season. It's like those people who spend all their money on Christmas Day because it's a festive season. So there is that kind of season which is taking place now. We ought to hold tight and make sure that we remain unshaken. They're there. It doesn't matter what they say from their mouth. It doesn't matter what song they sing. All we know factually is that these people have engaged in a double parking. So the constitution of the EFF says, speak good and defend the organization, both in private and in public. And then you go speak very bad about the organization in private and then plot its leadership. You know, what is holding some of them is the coming NPA, that they should blackmail us into electing them. And if we don't, they are going to leave. But they are long gone and will not be hurt by that. It doesn't matter what they do. It doesn't matter. So you can say this, but in actual fact, you are engaged in shenanigans that seeks to undermine the unity of organization. And go and praise a leader of another party in an internal meeting of the EFF and still believe that those comrades and fighters will view you as one of their own. So sometimes it helps the unity and the image of the organization not to engage in the expulsion of people. You just allow them to self-destruct. And that way you gain an upper hand. That nobody didn't expel them. They left on their own. Which they will do.
And that brings me then into the People's Assembly, because you're mentioning something about the threat that some of them are making, that maybe if they don't get elected, then they're going to somehow use some influences to try and bargain for positions. Are you expecting the People's Assembly in December to be a bruising contest for the EFF?
Not where I'm in charge. I'm in charge now. And I'm going to make sure that I defend the unity of this organization and its existence. I do not care of any critique that will come because it's disappointed from EFF that emerges united in Nazareth. EFF is not going to die in Nazareth. We're going to a conference, we're going to account, we're going to elect leadership. We are one of the few organizations that do that. And even when we try to protect that internal democratic process, we're still called dictators. But people say they will never go to conference. People say, yeah, they appoint leaders. No one tells them anything. They get praised everywhere. EFF is the only one that gets told, no, you can't do this. We're going to do what we think it is in the interest of the EFF, and we don't care who says what. We care about the branches of the EFF now. Yes, this is the period where we must defend our movement and not listen to our detractors. We have to defend the EFF. And the bad thing with the constitution of the EFF, and like any other constitution, it doesn't deal with the period of infiltration. What happens when the organization faces infiltration? The organization has got its own president. And the good thing with our president is that he's a founder of this organization. And where there is a absence of constitutional provision on how to deal with this, the president must intervene, and the president will intervene.
Yeah. What is your relationship now with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi? I'm sure you've seen the suggestions people have been making since you addressed the ground forces, when you said some of the leaders are quiet and some of their partners have liked tweets, and you know about the Twitter detectives who've gone and found some of the tweets that were liked by the partner of Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. Were you referring to him when you were making that statement? And what's your current relationship with him now?
Our relationship has always been an organizational and political relationship, and it remains like that. And I've not seen anything untoward, because even in Parliament, where we meet the most, we're working together. We meet almost every Monday, especially now with the preparations of the NPA. He's there, he's given tasks. He executes those tasks to the best of his ability. Nothing has suggested that there should be some sour relations between me and Dr. Ndlozi. But you ought to be aware that when we speak in the political event, people will always try to align the messaging with certain individuals. So meaning they will try to give it a face, even if there is no face, and then try to drive a wedge. And where you find the weak leadership, they go separate ways. But there are leaders who in the EFF, and they know themselves, and for the sake of the unity of our organization, we shouldn't be speaking about their names, who have kept quiet.
Including
and have
Mbuyiseni Ndlozi. I mean, Mbuyiseni Ndlozi has not said anything about Floyd since he left, between Floyd leaving and you addressing the ground forces.
He has said something, unless you're saying he didn't say it to you, the media people. If you asked him, if anyone asked him, I've never heard him being asked about that.
On Twitter?
But
because you said there are certain leaders who are busy tweeting, who always tweet, but now they're quiet.
It's his choice. I mean, I'm happy you are able to see that he has not tweeted. I have not been checking that. So all I'm saying is that he has expressed himself about this matter. To me, he has expressed himself internally in the organization. And he's writing his own history. Everybody writes his own history.
But you said to me earlier on that the EFF expects its leadership to defend this organization, not just internally, but publicly as well. He hasn't done that.
He has done that.
Publicly?
He has done that. He has been at the occasions where the organization ought to be defended, and he defended the organization.
Even on the issue of Floyd?
Well, I've not heard him say anything about the issue of Floyd, but the Constitution does not say on Floyd, defend the EFF internally and externally. It says the organization has to be defended both in private and in public. So if he has chosen not to say anything on Floyd, it doesn't mean he has not defended the organization. Where he gets an opportunity, which he does very well in Parliament, he defends the integrity and the image of the EFF.
Yeah. The Mail and Guardian reported earlier this month that there are some EFF provincial leaders that are calling for the party's constitutional change to abolish the deputy positions. Is that something that you think can work well in the organization?
Well, that suggestion came to me, but I've never been in an organization where there's no deputy president. So I'm very reluctant to do or agree with things that I don't know. So some people were saying to me, we need to establish the union, trade union, but we can't establish two organizations at the same time, because now I've never been in a union. So if there are comrades who are going to establish a union, and we can see it's a genuine union, it's not someone trying to resolve this issue of unemployment by forming a union, we'll support that. I've not listened to a real political persuasion as to why we should abolish the issue of deputy president, because you are irritated by what Floyd did. That is not objective. So you can't make rules based on Floyd for future leaders of the EFF who have not done anything wrong to the EFF. So you can be angry now with Floyd and be angry with whatever that he was occupying, and then say, no, he must go with everything. No. It's what irritated you now, but it can be a long-term solution. What happens if Julius Malema is unable to discharge this responsibility tomorrow? It means we're going to kill each other on that evening, because there is no one who the Constitution then immediately mandate that where the president is incapable of discharging his responsibilities, you have to come in. Yeah. So that creates a room for serious contestation and potential split in the organization if the Constitution does not resolve what needs to happen going into the future.
Yeah.
Deputy president is not succession. Being deputy president does not mean you're going to be president. Being deputy secretary general does not mean you're going to be secretary general. So you deputize in the absence of those you are deputizing. You are not even an assistant. You're not an assistant president. You are a deputy.
You've got your own responsibilities. And
you get assigned certain things. You don't interfere with what your principal is responsible for.
Yeah. And in terms of succession in the organization, and I know names are being bandied around now. Some people feel Mbuyiseni Ndlozi should contest Secretary General, the position of Deputy President. What confidence do you have in the current leadership and the possibility that they may return, including yourself as it is? Are you more open to, as a Democratic Party, obviously you allow anybody to contest positions. I just want to get your thoughts on the current leadership and the possibility of them returning, being re-elected, and also some of the names that are being mentioned to occupy the position of leadership in the EFF.
I think they all qualify. If it's the names that you have given to me now, the current leadership of the EFF is well capable. Our Secretary General is at the center of what we're going through now as an organization in defense of the EFF. He has been steering the ship. He has been ensuring that these branch meetings, regional meetings, and eventually provincial meetings take place in an orderly and disciplined manner, and they do take place, that the administration of it is proper. And where he has been called upon to defend our organization, he has never been ashamed, not for a day, for associating with us. So why would I have a problem with the Secretary General of the EFF? They can remove him if they want to, but if they come to ask me, I will express my view, that I don't agree with that view. And tribalists work in different ways. The fact that now the threat comes from MK, they now want to assume that every Zulu is a threat, and that includes our Secretary General, who has not for a single moment, not for a day, demonstrate that he belongs to a certain tribe or push ethnic politics or tribalistic politics. At times we even forget and speak to each other in our home tongue. And remember later that, no man, this comrade, you can see that he's lost. Like this comrade Ghana doesn't know this language. And then he does the same because we don't see tribe amongst ourselves. And therefore, Marshall is not going to be destroyed on the basis that there is a party that comes from or is strong. No, it comes from there anyway. It comes from KZN. And therefore, because Marshall is from KZN, he must be killed. I must also be killed. Marshall is even in a much better position. This party that you are saying comes from KZN, got 45% in KZN. I come from a province where the ANC got 73%. So if we're using that, I must be the first one to be shot down before you go to Marshall.
Yeah, well, and I'm glad you're expressing your view about the Secretary General position. What about the Deputy President position?
There's no Deputy President, he left. Yeah, so I've got nothing to do with that.
Free for all.
So it has always been like the position of the President. Clement, you guys make a terrible mistake, and that's why you don't critique with the rest of these people, and then you do that with us. In the EFF, if you talk succession, I'm going to finish reading my political report and organizational report, treasurer's report, we are done. Then electoral commission comes and say, guys, thank you for your service for the past 5 years. You can now step down. We get removed from the stage to go and sit with delegates there. In between that period and the nomination, there is no president of the EFF.
Ordinary members only.
We're just ordinary members there. Can you say that about Mapantiti? Can you say that about Action SA? Can you say that about the rest of these people?
Action SA hasn't had a conference yet.
And MK says, hey, don't even try those things here. But they are the darlings of everyone. Malema is going to be told, you must now step down so that nominations can take place. That weight, none of these parties have ever had. Yet, they are not dictators. They are not called all sorts of names, which we accept because we represent a direct opposite agenda of what the establishment is actually looking for.
Yeah, and I won't speak for the rest of the media, but for this show, we did criticize. In fact, my comment a week ago was about parties that are not even planning to have elect, and I referenced the EFF as the best example because you were founded in 2013, 2014 already. You had an elective conference. You indicated that branches that didn't get 10% of the vote share won't be allowed to participate at the conference. Just please expand more on that.
So when you go to a conference, you say a branch in good standing will be 100 members who have paid up their membership fee, who are registered voters, and that branch should go and elect the branch leadership if it doesn't have a branch leadership. If it does have a branch leadership, then it will nominate a delegate. So it's a criteria which it is left to us as the leadership of the EFF. So you look at those branches that have 100, the BGAs, BPAs, and then you say one delegate, and then you use a zebra approach, and you say, can't we come up with a criteria where we reward hard working? So then we say, okay, you are a branch of the EFF, it's okay, but you don't qualify to go to a conference. Because a requirement of a branch for you to be recognized as a branch is not that you must go to a conference. No, you can be a good branch in good standing, but you are not hardworking. And therefore, all the hardworking branches which received 10% and above will go to the NPA. And then they should have 100 members in good standing and all of that. And they must try 2 times if they fail the first time. To have a BGA or BPA where you elect a delegate, if you fail the first attempt, you must succeed on the second attempt. Why? A hard-working branch can't fail to convene a collaborating meeting to elect a delegate, if it is a legitimate membership, if it is a hard-working branch, it means there is an existing leadership there. That's why we're putting all kinds of criteria to ensure that we've got genuine delegates to the conference of the EFF, because conferences are a point of infiltration. The infiltrators perform very well when you go to the conference. So you ought to put mechanisms in place to make sure that you've got the best at our conference. So our conference is going to be a leadership forum. It's going to be a conference of the best of the EFF in the whole of South Africa, who would have met the difficult test and went through the eye of a needle.
Yeah, speaking of a difficult test, I remember at the last conference you spoke about the need to build a private school in Alex. Remember that?
Yes.
And you had said to the delegates, if we don't do that and we fail to do that in the next 5 years, then we're useless. You must vote us out. Have you been able to do that?
We bought a land. We couldn't find a land in Alexander. We bought a land in Magaliesberg. We were hit by COVID for 2 years in our term. We're not allowed to do anything. We came back. Now, when we came back from COVID, our plans have been stuck at the Mogale City Municipality. So I can't construct a school without approvals, which I needed to do in that 2 years. Do the drawings, do the approvals. How do I do that? But the land is there. And that, I didn't say this for the South Africa. We were saying this for the membership of the EFF. We are going back in December as leaders who are not scared to give back that feedback. This is who we are. This is where we started the process. This is where we are. The incapacity of the ANC municipalities and the racism of Magalies, which objected to us building a school there, is what we are dealing with. We are at the tail end. And the good thing is that in that conference, we're even going to present the 3D of the school and possibly the approvals of that school. So the political will has always been there. There were stumbling blocks here and there. We will overcome them. And there will be a school, and that school will be called Winnie Mandela Combined School.
All right, we're going to take a quick ad break. When we come back, we still have issues to discuss around the party's electoral performance, the role of the EFF as an official, as the opposition party, particularly there in Parliament, how they're holding. Yeah. Well, the MK party, no. MK party is the official opposition. You're no longer the second biggest party or third. So all that coming up. Also his views on the GNU. But please send us your WhatsApp voice notes with some questions. I'll get to them when we return. Stay with us here on Face the Nation. Welcome back. We're in conversation with the founder and leader of the EFF, Julius Malema. I've been asking you to send some questions if you have any. So I'll start with some questions that came through via X. Lane says, the question to Julius, how must people trust the EFF when its prominent leaders are leaving the party for other opposition parties? What is it that the EFF is not doing right that makes its best leaders to leave? I'll get you to respond to that, Mr. Malema, before I go to the next question.
Well, what is it that the EFF has changed from its formation until now? That which you have been voting for, and now they've changed and said they are no longer following that policy. They are following a certain policy. Therefore, we have to change. We have to support political parties as political parties with policy position on matters. You can put DA policy on education here, put EFF policy on education here, and then the rest of these others, you can't put their policies anyway. So it's unfortunate if people are going to follow individuals. There's nothing we can do about that. The ANC suffered the same blow when people decided to follow an individual. So with the EFF, it was not individual. It was a policy conference that adopted the founding manifesto. And that's what you should trust in. And the constitution of the EFF, all of them are still intact. EFF on any issue that it was founded on, if you voted for it in 2019 and in 2014, that issue is still there.
Yeah. All right, that was the first tweet that came through. There are other tweets as well. Lehasa says, Lochani Batu Beketu, can you please ask Mr. Malema if he's ready to change open border policy, because it's alleged that the open border policy destroyed his party. That's a message there from Legasa. This is one of the questions that I have around the issue of immigration and how you think you have addressed it. Because when I told people you're coming on the show and I said, what issue do you want me to raise with Julius Malema? A lot of them said, please get his thoughts on the issue around immigration and whether he thinks the messaging has been correct over the years. What is your view on that?
My brother, in 2014, I was told to change land expropriation without compensation because the messaging is not right. They will always find something to attack you. They split hairs. And when I stood firm on land expropriation without compensation, they were even doing campaigns, giving people title deeds. They say, people want title deed, this person is going to take your land and all of that. All of a sudden it has changed. It's no longer about the land. This open border policy was there in 2014, was there in 2019, but it didn't work. What else can we find to attack them? Whether me and you like it or not, there are no borders in South Africa. That is just something written for formality on the founding manifesto of the EFF. There are no borders, my brother. I can tell you, it's like we behave like a mad person who has got a shack and a yard. He's given a stand with a shack. He goes and put a gate where there's no fence. You put a gate. When you go to Mqimbi, we Yamalopo, ukia gate here like a lock. Yet you don't have a fence. When you come back and unlock that gate and open. Your neighbor is looking at you. He's like, what is this? Gate and Mackenzie was running all over Limpopo River, saying he's chasing Zimbabweans who are crossing into South Africa, almost eaten by crocodiles for doing that. But the foolish him, he didn't know. He was proving what I'm saying correct, that there is no fence. So what open border are you talking about, which is not happening now, which is going to happen after the EFF takes over government? These Africans have always been here. If you doubt, there is a language called Fanaka law. It was formed long before the arrival of the EFF. Why? The migrant laborers met. They couldn't communicate amongst themselves when they were building South African economy. It was built by Zambians, it was built by Mozambicans, it was built by Zimbabweans, it was built by South Africans who could not communicate amongst themselves. They formed a language, Fanaga law. Where was the EFF when these migrant laborers were here? I'm just saying, we must not find ourselves behind time. The EFF is being punished for being ahead of the times. We say things now, you guys come to appreciate them extremely late because we're too far in thinking. So, and these Africans, when you needed them, they were there for you. The frontline states were there. People got killed in Lesotho. People got killed in Mozambique. People got killed in Swaziland, in Botswana, because they were suspected to have been harboring the terrorists, meaning your liberators, your liberation movements were alleged to have headquarters in those places. Someone says, don't tell us about Nigerians. You even go to an extent of saying Nigerians gave us money for our liberation. It's true. From the civil servants of Nigeria, monies were deducted from them to support the liberation of South Africa. So today we are in a comfortable place. We say we don't want them. The EFF agrees that we don't want undocumented people in South Africa. How can we say South Africans must get IDs and then welcome people who are not undocumented? Everybody has to be documented so that if any wrongdoing happens, for whatever reason we are looking for you, we need to find your location.
Yeah.
So we need to find a way. They are here already. You go and put them in Lindela with our state money, which you are saying it's supposed to buy medicine. We pay buses. We take them back. They come back the following day, not next week.
So what would be your solution as the EFF?
The solution is let's go and document these people.
So don't deport them, rather find a way to formalize them.
We need to document them, because whether you like it or not, my brother, they are here. You know what they do in December? They hand themselves over in Lindela so that they can go and eat Christmas at home. And then in January they come back. That money could have been used on some feeding scheme to feed the children of the poor or in the clinics. The reality of you are in denial. There's xenophobic people are in denial. That's a problem. They are in denial that these people are here. They think they are still coming. Yeah. They are not coming, they are here. How do we deal with that?
What about the issue of scarce resources? Because you know about the unemployment in this country. And what government is trying to do is also make it difficult for foreign nationals to have jobs here. Not necessarily make it difficult, but you need to find a way so that you don't get a helper or anybody else where there's no scarce skills who gets a job here without considering South Africans first. So how do we deal with the issue of scarce resources? Because when you've got all of them here and you're saying let's formalize them, we don't have jobs. So the competition is high. So you're going to have South Africans that are without jobs. Some of the jobs are really taken by some of the foreign nationals, whether they're here legally or not.
I've never had a country where it says it doesn't want to grow. Numbers matter when it comes to geopolitics. China, it is what it is because of its size of its population.
But its economy is growing very well. Ours is not.
Because the leadership is working. Let's industrialize. Let's make sure that manufacturing grows in South Africa. Let's create jobs. But all I'm saying is, you are saying these people are coming to take jobs. Which jobs are you talking about? Because there are no jobs that South Africans are accepting which are a reflection of slavery. These people are being enslaved here in South Africa. And when you say they've taken South Africans' jobs, you are saying South Africans must be enslaved. These are not jobs. These are slaves' jobs, which South Africans don't want to work abnormal hours, to work under difficult conditions, and don't get paid and don't have rights. So no South African wants that. At the level where it's a required skill, South Africa makes it very clear that we must give preference to South Africans who've got the similar requirement. Unless we don't have artisans, then we go and fetch from other countries. We're going to chase these people out of South Africa. Tomorrow, the whole plumbing system and sewer system of South Africa will go into a blockade and will not be in a position to help ourselves because we don't have artisans.
Yeah.
The whole of South Africa will go into electricity crisis because you chased away the electricians.
But we do have South African plumbers and South African electricians.
But they are not enough. They can't meet the demand. It's like saying we produce chicken in South Africa, therefore we can't take chicken from South Africa. We don't produce to the capacity of the demand of South Africa. So all I'm saying is, where a job is given, a South African with same qualifications should be given a preference. We cannot prefer a person who's not a South African to the one that is going to pay tax in South Africa. And that is not what we are dealing with. I want you to present any stats to me that says, if we deport these foreigners, so many jobs are going to be created. Look at what's happening in education. We are retrenching educators. Not because foreigners have taken the positions of educators. We don't have the political will to sustain those jobs. As a result, they're going to be lost, not because of any foreigner. The steel factories have closed down, not because of any foreigner. The Infrastructure in South Africa is decaying because there is no leadership that wants to look after that. It's not a foreigner. Manufacturing, which used to be the biggest contributor to our GDP, it has actually been replaced by finance, which doesn't create a lot of job opportunities for our people. But you know that if you go into manufacturing, you are going to create a lot of jobs. A factory, manufacturing used to account for thousands of jobs, more than 150,000 jobs in manufacturing alone. Today, you can't count more than 80,000 of jobs in manufacturing. So you can't say the foreigners have actually, the jobs are still, the 150,000 of them, the foreigners have taken them. No, the factories have closed down and jobs were lost, not because foreigners came in, but because the financial sector has overtaken manufacturing, and financial sector does not want to deal with industrialization. Anything long term, the financial sector does not want to support it. Why? Because they deal with hot money. They deal with what short-term investment, and they don't want anything to do with long-term investment.
Let's talk about the EFF electoral performance.
Yes.
It wasn't the best of results. You're now under 10%. Do you think that part of the problem, I'm sure you've done your assessment by now of whether or not some of the things the EFF did or said were a result of that electoral performance. And I wonder if your approach in Parliament over the years was also a part of the problem in your view, because you did say after elections that our strategy is now going to change. You're not going to see us shouting and being kicked out of Parliament. We're going to no longer disrupt parliamentary meetings, but instead focus on playing a robust opposition. Do you think that also affected your performance?
No, that is what sustained the EFF. You can't introduce yourself like you have been here. You ought to introduce yourself in a manner that you will be felt that you have arrived. So you must learn the law of presence. So for the past 10 years, we're establishing the presence of the EFF in Parliament through the approach and through our regalia, which was a reflective of representation of the working class. We never lost support because of that. Because that behavior, if you check it, by the way, it was worse between 2014 and 2019. It was more robust and more radical and got us more vote in 2019. Why would it lose us vote in 2024? I'm just saying, my brother, we must not listen to people who have a mind of a rat, who can't think behind 10 years as to what happened previously and what's happening now. Then we get numbers in 2019, which we never expected. Boom, in KZN, 350,000 to the EFF. When we look at why did we get this result, it's because there are people who are angry with Cyril Ramaphosa in the ANC and who are fighting for Zuma, and they've got no home. That's why they ended up taking cover under the EFF. What the EFF failed to do was to take that opportunity and intensify political education and convert them into permanent supporters of the EFF. So the EFF lost no numbers to anything except losing numbers to that which never belonged to it. And EFF did not take effort to win it over. It just took it as obvious that these people are ours. Whereas when Marshall was giving us results in KZN, in 2019, we were actually shocked. He says we passed 100,000. We passed 200. I said, don't play such games. He said, hey man, we're coming this way. So we were shocked in 2019 by KZN performance the same way we're shocked now by KZN performance. No policy position. So let's take open borders. Why Mashaba did not get 10%? Because your measure of success, all of you, is 10%. That if you support an open border where there is African unity, you lose vote. Why didn't Mashaba get the votes? Why didn't get the Lepantiti get the votes? Because he jumped there, almost fainted. Mabahambe, mabahambe. He got nothing close to 10%. Mashaba and Gaten Mabahangbe group combined still don't come close to the EFF.
But they're not as old as the EFF.
And they still did not get what the EFF got when the EFF was their age. Don't forget that. So you must compare those things. Yeah. Don't be ahistorical.
Yeah. Let's talk about so how do you crystallize that support though? Because the MK party really ruffles feathers now. Yeah. A lot of parties, including yourselves, are feeling. How do you go back to the drawing board?
Makai, we lost less than 1%, but you guys are projecting us as if we lost 17%. The ANC lost in this election, but the ANC is being covered with the face of the EFF, the same thing you did with VBS, to put the EFF to be the face of VBS and not the ANC. The ANC lost big time. The EFF is going to regain its lost ground because the EFF, its policy and its leadership did not do anything wrong to offend South Africans. If anything, we're working very hard and we're the only organization that works very hard for South Africans. None of these organizations put boreholes. None of these organizations renovate old age homes. None of these organizations, as organizations, take children to schools, re-gravel the roads, try to patch the potholes, try to create some bridges for our communities. The EFF does that. None of these people do what we're doing.
Speaking of EFF, it's also a matter that has come out a lot for the organization, even before the elections post. There's now an affidavit by Chief Matodzi, and you have spoken already responding to that in some way. The question I have, though, is when you look at Sgamega, right, as a company, have you personally received any monies from Sgamega? Because Sgamega was doing business with Vele Investments. Vele was receiving money from VBS. Did you personally receive, or any of your family members close to you receive any monies from Sgamega?
As a neutral, journalist, you should be knowing that I was cleared by Parliament Ethics Committee. All of this, that which you are asking, were alleged and sent to Ethics Committee in Parliament, where the ANC was still in majority. They still could not find me guilty because I've never done anything wrong. None of my families have ever done anything wrong. If anything, I said in that Parliament that you are talking, and I was saying this to Kumbuzu, you are talking about VBS. You want to know more information, what is VBS? Ask the minister next to you. And I was referring to Thembi Nkadime, who had taken money to VBS, and today she's in trouble. You know why she's in trouble? It's not because of VBS, because she went to fight for the independence of the NPA. Patoi wants to hand over NPA to those guys of Zondo Commission. They want recordings of Zondo Commission from her. They want all types of things. And Batoi wants her contract extended. And when Thembi put her foot down, they went for her. Because those guys who were leading, I don't know, they were like the prosecutors of Zondo Commission.
Evidence leaders.
Yeah, evidence leaders. They are now working for NPA after they referred the Zondo Commission report to NPA and said, guys, you'll decide if you want to prosecute or not on that side. Then they go and catch the javelin on the other side, wanting to prosecute the people. They said, we are done with them, you will make a decision. So she says, how? How do you do that? Okay, the recordings. She says, give me, recordings is these things of spying. They were spying on us, listening to our phones, listening to, listening devices and all of that. All of that, the custodian of that is the Department of Justice. So she has put those things safe under whatever administration. But Toy says, bring all the recordings to me of the Zondo Commission. She says, no, it doesn't work like that. You say, I want Clement's recordings, and these are the things I want in the recordings.
Yeah.
The Department of Justice, they've got their own mechanism. They go and listen, take only that part, and then give it to Batoi. We don't want to know your girlfriend through Batoi because you'll be hearing the things she's not supposed to be hearing if she gets all the recordings.
Yeah.
So they want to kill her because they want Gwede, they want all of them and all of that. We don't have a problem with that. But they are now using VBS as a smoke screen. She did not commit VBS now as a Minister of Justice. Why was she not the face of VBS when the EFF was the face of VBS? What happened now for them to go for her? Because she came from that VBS arrangement in Polokwane to become a Minister of Kokta. Is it allowed that you can be a Minister of Kokta even if there are allegations of corruption, but not Minister of Justice? Where were these allegations?
What about Brian? I mean, I don't know if he's a member of the organization, but he's had to pay back over 4 million rand back to people who are handling what's happened with VBS now. You are the people that are fighting for those that have benefited anyhow to be held accountable. Have you asked Brian the questions like that, Floyd Shivambu's younger brother?
No. It's not my place. Why should I go around asking members about what they are doing? You are right. You are saying people are being held accountable. And when I heard that is paying back the money, that is part of being held accountable. Zuma paid back the money. Zuma also paid the VBS, if he did, a bond, which he got. Naledi Pandor was also in the VBS bond or something, which she was there. They are your darlings. You will never know their names. You know the names of those you don't like to demonstrate there's no principle. Many names, a lot of names are there. This is just used to blackmail people. When they try to speak, they say, we'll release this thing about you. So if he paid, good for him. That is part of being held accountable. It means he got the money because this is a transaction between companies and banks. And then the curators said, we want our money. You know, curators asked even the king of the Bavenda king, do you know Malema? When they called him in a hearing, how do you know him? How did he get into the VBS? And he came back shocked that, how do I get questioned half a day about you and how I know you when we have because it was a political witch hunt, which I defeated, which I will still defeat. They are going to come out of that thing of VBS one by one. They are going to eat each other through Batoi in the NPA because she says these people are accusing me. Even my friends internationally are laughing at me that I've come into this position, I've not done anything. Doing anything is to go after prominent politicians that are found in Zondo Commission, which we don't have a problem with. Those are their own problems.
I'm told I've got 30 minutes. They're going to fight with me. What's your assessment? 30 seconds. 30 seconds. What's your assessment of the GNU so far?
It has failed. How can a minister not go to a place where the president is signing a bill? That is bringing cabinet into disrepute. The president should have fired that minister there and there because when you are there, you are no longer serving the DA constitution. You are serving the South African constitution. This has failed even in practical terms, not in theory. The Bella Bill exposed these people for what they are, a marriage of inconvenience, a DA-led government. It's not an ANC-led government. It's a GNU. Helen told you, where I went to him, he said, let me lie to them and say it's a government of national unity because if I tell them straight that it's me and you, they are not going to agree. So it has failed, whether they are in denial or not, it has failed. They are going to fight on NHI. They are going to fight on NPA because the reason why you see the Communist Party taking a posture it is taking, you must just look at where does Gwede Mantashe stand in all of this. Right. That's why the Communist Party does not agree because they know there is a crocodile waiting to swallow them.
Julius Malema, thank you so much for making time for us.
Thank you for having us.
And thanks to you for watching the Tuesday edition of Face the Nation. We'll be back with you on Thursday at 8 p.m. Have a good evening. Cheers.